exercises in it. Okay. And these can be body weight movements, or they can be resisted movements depending on the equipment that the players have at home. Okay. So it's probably more appropriate that a 13-year-old with an introduction to S&C sticks to his body weight stuff. Somebody who's then 15 and maybe in the system or participate in strength and conditioning for the 2 years prior to that can begin to load himself or begin to add resistive material, we call it, or equipment. Okay, so looking at this, I'd ask the question to you: is this something you could implement in your club, in your club setting? Okay, so post warm up, so you do your warm up, all your ball drills and all those things, and maybe you take the warm up that you've seen there on the previous slide and run with that, and then you could break this down. So you could run a circuit with your players. It's an ideal situation at the moment, or should I say, an ideal situation to put in place when you get back, where you'd have 5 settings where the players can be socially distanced, complete the exercises. You could put a running clock on that at 20 minutes, and they get the circuit done as many times in those minutes. The rep ranges they would have received then, so how many times they did the exercise. So they would have had 3 sets of 8. So they would have done the exercise 8 times, and they would have done 3 rounds of that then. Okay. So when we move on from that, so that's our 13 to 15, and I look into their strength and conditioning side of things. At 16 and 17, our minor level, and that progresses on, and that's a little bit more advanced. So we would have had a breakdown. Again, we would have presented it in the same format, run through the programs, make sure everybody understands it, and make sure they know how or what they're expected to do in the coming weeks. So our first one, on the left-hand side of the screen, we would have talked about detraining, which is in the orange box there. So for our club players, detraining can set in. So in as little as 10 days and then up to 60 days, where at 60 days, if you haven't done anything in 2 months, you're going to have a drop off in performance a little bit more significantly than you would in 10 days, but it begins at 10 days. If we look at the bottom, then you would have had skills of the game in the middle. Okay, so sport is the most important thing. So be that hurling or football, and then the areas of strength and conditioning and our nutrition and those 4 pillars of performance then are around the outside of that. So number 1 there would have been your cardiovascular fitness. So more commonly known as your conditioning, or the running we prescribe to our players to get them fitter. Our speed and our power then, that'll be sprinting and jumps that we get them to do. So plyometrics. So we're building the power by getting them to maybe do a hurdle jump, a box jump, and some hopping then on single legs. And that feeds back into their fundamental movement then also. Our strength then, so the strength would have been their strength program as such. That would have been a 2-day program where you'd have 5 exercises on each day to complete. Not dissimilar to our 13s and 15s, but when we're at 16 and 17, we really want them to be pushing on and really getting into that strength and conditioning side of things, where they're using weights and maybe a backpack as a tool. So they might fill the backpack with a set of books to give them something that makes the exercise more difficult for them to do. Okay, so then our 4th one would have been the diet. And we would have presented that then the following week in our nutrition presentation. So they're the 4 keys, and they all fill in then to making the better athlete or the better player, be that at club or at county, because at the end of the day, they all come back and they're all club players. Okay. 1 second. So our nutrition then. So this would have been our 2nd presentation. So what we coined was a Wellness Wednesday. So on a Wednesday, we had our 13 to 15-year-olds on between the hours of 5 and 6. So finished school, had an hour there to maybe have a look at nutrition, get something to eat. And then they came on to a call led by myself and Liam. So we took a good look at nutrition here and gave them some tools and some homework to be working away on. And then our weekly minor or under 17 engagement session then was on a Thursday, 5 to 6 again. So they would have been our minors coming in at 2021. Okay. And hopefully we'll see those lads sooner rather than later. So our aim was educating your club players on the area of nutrition, okay, on what it is, how it works, and how best to utilize the food that they're eating, and the importance of hydration. Then on top of that, okay, so hydration is probably one that's overlooked or underrated to a certain extent, but it's something, especially coming into the summer months where we're sweating loads. The lads will need to be replenishing that then with the water intake. Okay. So when we look at the presentation, and sorry lads, and the presentation. So your two sample slides are left and right. Okay, so you would have had 8 nutrition rules to live by on the left-hand side, and then we had a look at our hydration on the right-hand side. There is more to it, but I just wanted to give you an insight this evening on the type of information that's there, and maybe the type of information you might look for me to present to the rest of your club players, maybe in a webinar series or something along those lines. So if we're looking at the left-hand side, 8 nutrition rules to live by. Some of those would have been fruit and vegetables. So we'd encourage the players to take in 6 to 8 fruit and vegetables. Our typical one is your 5 a day. But what we say to the lads is, look, you're aiming to perform at a higher level, and where you want to be getting in a little bit more there. So we said between 6 and 8, and that can break down. Maybe a lad doesn't like fruit and he takes in more vegetables. So he might have 6 portions of veg, 2 of fruit, or he might just be happy out to go 4 and 4 or 3 and 3. Okay. We encourage them then to eat every 3 to 4 hours. The analogy I would have used there is your school day. So in an ideal scenario, you're eating breakfast in the morning, and you're going to school then at 9 o'clock. So breakfast is before that, maybe 8 or half 8. You're into school then, and you have a break around 11 o'clock. So that's your 3-hour window there. Most schools then are probably 1 or half 1 after that. So a little less than 3 hours. But again, there's that little break there, and it's structure to their day, and they're eating at regular times throughout the day. You finish school then, another 2 or 3 hours after that. You have a snack or a meal then before you might go into after school study or out onto the pitch for training with the school, and then you're home for the dinner. So they're probably looking at 5 to 6 meals a day there. Okay. And then when we're fueling for it. So what does that mean? We're looking at the top, fuel for it. What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is, like I said in the previous one, you're eating the right foods for the right activities. So if I have a school session from 4 to 5, and then I'm in with the Offaly development squads or Offaly minor squad at 6:15, that's 2 sessions I have in that day. So I need to be looking at a big hearty breakfast, some porridge, maybe some scrambled eggs. So a decent amount of carbohydrates in there. That'll provide us with the good energy sources we need, that'll allow us to train then without becoming fatigued too quickly. Moving on then to our hydration. So hydration's on the right-hand side there. We kind of have a P chart there. Okay, so when we presented this to the lads, that was kind of encouraging them just to take note of what's going on. If they're dehydrated, then they need to take a look at that, get a bit more water on board. So ideally, we have them up in this top segment here, where we're right on point, and as far away from the bottom end of things as possible. So that goes bit by bit. It's probably a case you can't see it, but it just, as the color changes, the need to rehydrate changes, and it's just a guide for the players to understand, okay, maybe I need to get a bit more water in here. And that applies to game day as well, where if you're not fully hydrated or even the smallest bit dehydrated, you can have a drop off in performance of 2%. So that can be quite significant, especially in the big games. Okay. So what can we do? So For me and Liam, Michael, and all of us in the coaching and games staff with Offaly GA, what I can offer is to present a nutrition webinar similar to what I've just shown you there, and maybe with your club element of it a bit more significant and similar to what we have from an Offaly perspective there. What I'd encourage you to do then is, with all the Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams meetings that are going on at the minute, if you were to look at nutrition, so it might be a case that you're doing a skills session on a Saturday morning or something along those lines on your Zoom, or it might be a case that you're doing strength and conditioning within your club on the Zoom. Maybe just throw a spanner in the works. Go, okay, this week we're going to have a look at nutrition. That's one of the 4 pillars. Whether that's a webinar with myself, the next one down then will be to encourage a club cook along. So there's always one really good chef or a good mammy that's really good at cooking and making food that you could maybe tap into and say, look, we'd really like to get the lads up on their nutrition, improving on their nutrition and educated on that a little bit. Would you be interested in doing a cook along? And that might be a case that you don't do it live, you do a pre-recorded one and you're able to send it out to the lads. And then when they're making a dinner like a chicken and pasta or something along those lines, that they can watch that video and learn how to cook it along. So they're getting life skills from the whole thing as well. And then when we get back to play, just on a nutrition point, encourage them to have their post-workout nutrition. So that's something that was niggling at us in Offaly for a while, but we've sorted it out in the past while, where lads would turn up to training, and on a development squad day, you could be training for 2 to 3 hours at a time, where you might be in the gym with myself, Dave, and other interns that we might have had, and then out on the pitch. So you would have had 2 sessions. So what does post-workout nutrition look like then? So what we'd encourage them to have is maybe a chicken sandwich, a banana, chocolate milk. All right, chocolate milk isn't bad. There's lots of protein in there, which helps the muscles recover and all of those things. So if you can kind of push them in that direction at a club level, they're going to be that bit more ready then for the next training session that you might have with them. So it kicks in that recovery straight away for you, especially when we're probably building towards tough sessions when we get back. We're all eager to get back on the field, and they might be harder than the lads are able for early on. So that recovery will help all that. Our next one then, so into your recovery then. So this would have been our 3rd presentation, and this one and the mindset went together. So with our recovery, we have a 100-point system that we employ in Offaly. With our 100-point system, it's kind of grade A stuff. So it's what the AFL teams use over in Australia with their Aussie rules. And what we do in Offaly is, well, recovery has to be optimized and individualized just like their training. So what I'd be saying to the lads around this 100-point system is that have a look at it, find the things that work for you, find the things that you can easily implement between your training sessions. So it all has to add up to 100 points. So what I'd break it down in for them is maybe 150 point. So you have 3 options there to get your 50 points in, and then you have 4 options to get 30 points. Then you're up to 80, and then you have an option between your 20 points and your 10 points. Okay, so our 50 points, then we're probably looking at a swim in the sea or a pool. Okay, landlocked here in Offaly, unless you hop into a bog, you might be able to. But look, Palace Lakes and things like that are there as well. But we can't get into the pools at the minute. So that might be off for the lads. But could they maybe look at getting a warm Epsom salts bath in, where they can pick up the Epsom salts for €5 in Boots or one of these places? I think Holland and Barrett stock it as well. Run a hot bath and pop them in there, and that's it. And then after that, then you're looking at your 30 points. So you're already on 50. Your 30 points then were 15 minutes cold immersion. That's basically an ice bath. 15-minute stretch session, something they can definitely do. And then moving on from there, builds back into the nutrition. You have your protein shake there, or 15-minute spin bike flush. So 15 minutes on the spin bike, just to flush the legs out, especially after a hard session. There's no reason why that has to be a spin bike. A lad can hop out on his bike and maybe even go for a longer cycle if needs be. Especially in these times, it's nice to get out and clear the head. So, and the same then with your 15-minute walk as well, or a foam roller session. They're easily achievable for the lads, and it's a great way of getting ready for the next session. Okay, so you're trying to hit 100 points between each session. Okay, so recovery allows the mind and the body to re-energize and to prepare for the next day's activity. All right, work plus rest equals success. All right, so we train hard, we recover hard, we rest up, and then we're ready to go again. All right, other topics then that we covered in our recovery presentation included sleep and nutrition. So what we said was that our sleep and our nutrition and our 100-point system were the low-hanging fruit. Okay, so try to imagine an apple tree and in the orchard with all the apples hanging low, and you're able to grab them. So what I said to the lads at that stage was, grab all that low-hanging fruit, put it in the bank, that's yours. Okay, when we focus on our sleep, we talked about our sleep environment, having dark blinds, and turning off the phone, leaving it outside the room at night, having a checklist to remind you of the things you might need to do before you go to bed, and then sticking that to the wall beside the pillow or the bedside locker, and you review that each night to make sure you're getting all of those done. So on a checklist, you might have, is the breakfast prepared for the next morning? Is my overnight oats ready? So if I do sleep in, or I'm having a good sleep, I know, okay, the overnight oats are ready there. And if it's the case, then I need to bring them on the journey to school. I can do that. Is the lunch ready for the next day? Did I pull down my blinds ready to sleep? And then one that you mightn't think of is the room temperature. So is it too hot? Is it too cold? Play around with that a little bit as a player and figure out what's the best environment for you to get the best night's sleep. Okay, sleep's the real one. Sleep's the one that you're going to get the most bang for your buck out, especially if you can get it right and get those phones out of the room. So our next one then will be our mindset. Okay, so on the right hand side, two more snippets of our presentation. So we would have had our 6 youth mindset principles. Okay, so just to have a quick look at them, I'll read them out if you're not able to see them. Hopefully you are. So number 1 would have been to respect your coaches, your other players in your sport. And number 2, work to improve your skills one day at a time. So take it bit by bit, pick a skill and work on that. And that feeds into our skill development, which we speak on later on in the talk. Learn how to train and care for your body. So that filtered into our aim as well. So we were trying to educate them on that, and then giving them the tools to go ahead and learn how to train. So we provided them with the program, but the ownership was then back on them to go, okay, I understand this. Now I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get fitter. I'm going to get faster. And I'm going to be a better hurler and a footballer because of it. And number 4 then was to have fun and enjoy the process. So what we were saying there was to enjoy everything you do, no matter how hard or easy it is, and take the most enjoyment you can from it. And I'm sure they'll all have fun and enjoy the process when they do get back down to the field. And then to celebrate their improvements and achievements. So even the smallest achievement, a challenge that we would have given them to do was as a, not so much an icebreaker, but to break up the chat and stop listening to me for a couple of minutes, was to do as many push-ups as they could in a minute. And we had that in each one of our talks then. So if they improved even by 1, we wanted to celebrate that. We wanted to go, you've gone and done what you needed to do there to get better. So fair play to you. And we always used to get them to do a John Milan woo then. All right. And number 6 then is avoid comparing your results and performances to others. So they'd be popping that into the text box. They're probably having a look at the other scores around them. But that's kind of going, okay, well, this is my score and my job's to improve that. Don't worry about anybody else and just better yourself. Your second slide then would have been just kind of defining what mindset is for them, because it's often a word just thrown around there without real definition on it. And the lads be going, okay, mindset. What does that really mean? So mindset is about working towards a goal with a full understanding of what it requires to accomplish that goal. Okay, so that goal might be, as a 13 to 15-year-old, might be, okay, I want to be in that next group in 2 to 3 years' time where we're performing at under 16s or our minor squads, all right? And then just a little one there, then we all have the same 25 hour or 20, 25, I was being greedy, 24 hours in the day. The quality of how we use those 24 hours will determine the results that we get, okay? So when we look at mindset encompasses all aspects of our 4 pillars. They all feed in, one feeds into the next, okay? So mindset relates to how we do everything, be it us as coaches or them as players. It's how we prepare for our sport, whether that's looking after nutrition, looking after our training, looking after the mindset, okay? How we work to improve ourselves day to day, and then how we make best use of that 24 hours, okay? And what I would say to them then is they're on the call for an hour. Okay, so that's 60 minutes out of 1,440 minutes that they've decided I'm allocating that to being better this week. Okay, and I guess you're doing the same right now as a coach. You've decided you're going to log on to this evening. You're going to get more educated around the area of performance and strength and conditioning, and you're going to bring that back to your club players then. So fair play to you on that. Our next one then, right? So task time. I won't make you do the challenge for the push-ups, but what I want you to do is grab a pen and paper. So anybody who came on late to the call, I'll give you a second to grab your pen and paper there. Anybody who does have your pen and paper ready, I want you to draw this diagram down at the bottom. Okay, so you'll have a circle, a bit like a mind map. So you'll have a circle with 4 blocks on the outside that you're going to write into. What I want you to do is write your own name in the very middle of it. Okay. So if I was doing that, Conal Mahon goes in there. Then what I want you to do is I want you to identify 4 reasons you have for doing what you're doing right now. So whether that's logging on to this call, whether it's running Zoom sessions with the lads, whether it's something family orientated, it doesn't have to be sport orientated. It's just to identify a reason behind everything that we do and give us that why that kind of identifies the driving factor, the driving force behind everything we do. So I'll give you a couple of minutes there to do that. Okay, so you have 4. So try to identify 4 reasons, and it's probably something you'll review in the coming days and go, okay, maybe this one trumps that. Maybe that's not really a reason. It's kind of one filling into the other, but that can happen too. So when you identify 4, that all might filter into the one as a whole. So there might be 4 little parts that filter in to the one as a whole. A bit like our 4 pillars of performance, they then all filter into being a better athlete or being Offaly, we'll call it. Okay. So I'll give you another minute on that. Some of you might have preferred to do the push-up challenge, but I'll leave you off for this evening. You can do your strength and conditioning another time or after we get off the call. Okay, so for the next 2 slides, I'm going to hand you back to Liam O'Reilly and Michael Cleary. They're just going to run over our skill development, have a look at our youth training booklet here and what is in that from a skill development side, and one of the training logs or tracking systems that we would have had in place there. Okay, so I'll pass you back to the lads there.
Yeah, and I'll take it. Michael is in the background keeping an eye on text and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
look, guys, again, just to re-emphasize, this is all the stuff that we would have presented. I know a lot of information to be taken on board, but this is what's available, readily available for all clubs. This is what we've been presenting to the players over the last 5 to 8 weeks. So all these add up to making the players. And the one key thing that we never get away from is the skill development. So what we've done is we've looked at hurling and football, and we broke it down into skills that players can practice. All right. So when we look at the skills, all right. So what we've asked the players is to pick 2 skills a week. All right. You can see there on the left hand side is the hurling booklet, and on the right hand side is the football booklet. On the front page of that is just basically a front page cover where the player can write their names in. And what we've been encouraging the players to do over the last few weeks is start really, building up your own little profile book that they can keep an eye on and that they can start jotting in all their scores. So, Conal, if you just move on one slide there. Okay, so basically this is what the booklet looks like inside. Okay, so you pick your days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And to be honest with you, if it's a case that these players want to practice more than twice a week or pick more than 2 skills a week, we've been asking them to get out as often as they possibly can to do it. So, for example, if I was to pick Monday, and you can't really see the letters and stuff, but when we send this on to you after the presentation tonight, on the left hand side, you'll have your skill. Right, so you jot in your skills, so it could be a kick pass or striking from the hand, and then you just basically put down your score. So how many times did I do that from the right hand side? How many times did I do it from the left hand side? And from a point of view, then it's really putting ownership back onto the players to say, right, you come and coach them for an hour, 10, 15 minutes, maybe twice a week with us. But really and truly, the more you do at home, the more improvement you're going to make. And we had to put that ownership back onto the players. Because at the end of the day, once they cross the line and in a tight match, there's very little they're going to probably hear you let back into them. All right, so you're very reliant on them having to do all this. So what we were trying to sell was over the last few weeks is your nutrition, your strength and conditioning, your mindset, your recovery, your skills. These are all things that add up to making them into better players and better people. All right, so again, it's just something that we thought would be very worthwhile. And also, this is readily available for any club. We'll be sending out this presentation along with all the other presentations we would have made to the players, and we'll be giving that to you. And then you can come back or you can print it off yourselves, and we go from there. So that's just a very simple way of doing it. And I suppose the reason why I look at it is it just gives that bit of ownership to the players to record their scores. So that's kind of it from the skills part of it, Conal. And conscious that I don't want to get too much into it, because if clubs are interested in getting more of these isolated presentations, they are going to be on offer after this presentation tonight.
Yeah, that's 100%, Lee. Okay, so we'll take a look then at our training log then for our 16 and 17-year-olds. Okay, so when we look at this, so it's session tracking for them. It's very simple to create, and it's probably something you could implement in your clubs if needs be. You create a Microsoft form, and they just fill in the form, and then the information they give you will come through then in a Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so one filters into the next once you have a Microsoft account. So what we got them to do was they put in their name, the club they play for, the date of the session, so when they completed the session, and then there's 4 types of sessions that they could have done as a minor hurler or footballer. So we would have got them either to do a 1K time trial, a strength and conditioning session, a skills session, or a running session. So they this gives it's player feedback. Okay, so they're giving it back to us. It gives us an insight into the training load, how much they're doing, as well as giving feedback then to the management on who's doing what and so on. Why we don't have direct physical contact with the lads at the moment. Okay, our next one. So what could we do? So club engagement sessions upon return to our field-based activities post-lockdown. So maybe it's a case that you get one of us out for a club engagement session, and after that then, so I guess I'm putting ownership back on the people that are on the call this evening doing all the good work on the ground. So we've had a look at their skills and we've identified 10 skills per code, 10 skills in hurling, 10 skills in football, and that we've asked the lads to work on. So once you have access to that booklet, what I'd encourage you to do then for your own club players is maybe design a session based on a skill. So for example, if we had kicking, create a session with 4 to 5 drills or activities in it that would improve the players kicking. So while we've asked them to go and work on 2 skills per week, maybe you can bring them on that little bit further and create those sessions for them that build into the sessions you're going to have when you get back onto the field with them. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to move on to, I'll just go back to the last slide for a sec. The next thing I'm going to move on to is a nationwide program that's been rolled out since the 3rd of March. Okay, so you're going to get a great insight into what that is now at the minute. It's been ran by Setanta College down in Tipperary, which is a strength and conditioning course, in conjunction with the GA. So what they've done is they put a Be Ready to Play program, okay? And the Be Ready to Play program is at youth level between the ages of 13 and 17, at adult level, and then advanced where the adult has been partaking in strength and conditioning for an extended period of time. So what is the Be Ready program? Okay, so the program is a holistic coaching and a performance plan that will have great benefit to club coaches, players, male, female, adult, and youth alike. Okay, so it's a program put in place that you can access through your e-learning portal on the GA website. It has 5 different types of sessions, and I'll go through them shortly. It will help your players then with the return to training post-COVID in a way that will hopefully increase enjoyment, increase performance, increase participation, while simultaneously reducing the risk of injury, okay? So we don't want them injured. We want them back playing. We want them enjoying themselves. We want them on that pitch as often as possible. So this is going to all help that. So what does the Be Ready offer you as a coach? Okay, so the Be Ready program is an athletic development program that's updated fortnightly. So it goes in 2-week cycles, okay, via the 3 courses that we spoke about previous in your youth, your adult, and your advanced. There's instructional videos there then as well that you can tap into, watch, and then that'll give you maybe the coaching cues and different things that you might be able to avail of there, as well as live sessions that you might be able to copy or send to the players that they can avail of also. Then there's monthly coach education webinars. So they'll have guest speakers on there and coaching experts that you can tap into once you enroll in the program, and you'll get great benefit from that and a good education there as well. There's monthly sports science support webinars as well. So one of them is on this evening. I'll touch on that now in a second. Okay, every sports science discipline is covered. Okay, so what I don't want you to be scared of is sports science. It's like, oh, that's a whole new world. Okay, it's still strength and conditioning. Okay, and it's just that element of piecing it all together. Okay, so don't be scared of it. And they do a really good job of simplifying everything down, and it's a really good program. So tonight then they had Helen McElroy on there. She's the physio with Tyrone, and the topic she was discussing this evening was preparing to train and play, how to decrease your injury risks. Okay, so she would have had a webinar on there at 7 o'clock. Unfortunately, the two of them clashed, but from now on, you're going to know that you can access those things, and I'd encourage everyone on the call to enroll in that. So how do you get access to the program? Okay, so you'd register on learningga.ie. Okay, so by clicking register in the top right hand corner, Okay, so if you go onto the GA website and then you have your learning portal there, that'll be there for you. Okay, users will be first asked to input their age. Okay, so anybody under the 16, under the age of 16, will need to do a course and fill in some information there, basically so that they comply then with the digital age of consent and the legislation around that. Okay. So
Conal, just on that as well, an email would have went to all clubs with the links to how to sign up on that as well. So if anybody on the talk tonight wants to know, that has gone to the clubs as well. So, and I can resend that to the clubs tomorrow also.
100%. That's perfect, Liam. What I'm going to do then is, I suppose I'm going to throw up a little bit of the content there. So while you're wondering what it's out there and you now know what it is, you probably want to see what's in there. So what I'll do is, if I stop presenting for a second, I can then share my screen, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. And then if I pop in here, okay, so this is just one of the programs. Okay, so activity phase, week 1 and week 2. Okay, so these are the first 2 weeks, and then they update that once these 2 weeks are done. Okay, so you have your session in there. So challenge the cardiovascular system using body weight exercises and timed intervals. Okay, so if you're developing a session, okay, or you decide maybe you're going to run with our youth training systems, but after 3 to 4 weeks of that, you decide you might throw a spanner in the works and use something different, something to re-energize the whole thing and get that buy-in for the players, that they're not constantly doing the same thing over and over again, that it gets maybe monotonous. So you're looking at a time of 15 to 25 minutes again. So like I spoke about at the start, that's something that can be done at the start of the session. So you do your warm-up, and then you might spend the next 15 minutes working on this area. Okay. So what it'll look like is that you have a 6 exercise circuit. Sorry. So you have your plank there, alternating forward lunge, mountain climbers, bodyweight squat, high knees, and a burpee. Okay. So it gives you all of your format there then. So you complete each exercise for 30 seconds, followed by 30 seconds rest before moving on to the next. So they can be transitioning during that 30 seconds. It's probably one that you can have the whistle around the neck and blow once the 30 seconds are up, and they're on to the next one. And then you aim to complete this 2 to 3 times, or if we have a rolling clock, for the 15 or 25 minutes. And then something we would have also looked at with the players would have been their timetable. So, and this is something, in fairness to the lads in Setanta, they've put, and the Be Ready program, they've put a timetable in place here for the if you were to get the players to sign up. So you'd have option 1 there. Okay, you have 3 sessions a week there, and then where option 1 may be too difficult for some players or too easy for others, you have another option there then. Okay, so 4 days a week in option 2, 3 days a week in option 1, but you have 2 sessions there together. So these two to be together, you're just splitting them up in week 2. So that's something we would have looked at with them as well, and scheduling their sessions and planning their week out. And no different to what you're seeing in front of you right now, we would encourage them to have their 2 skill sessions a week, and then their 2 strength and conditioning sessions on top of that. And then at our very last presentation, then we would have provided them with a conditioning protocol to assist them in getting fitter over the coming weeks before they return to play. So that's all available to you once you sign up to the Be Ready program via the GA Learning website. Okay, so that's all for me. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation and got a significant amount from it. And I hope to hear from you in the future for a couple of club engagement sessions and things like that.
Okay, so thanks to Conal. I suppose everyone on the talk can see how much stuff has been done with the youth players. it was something that we looked at from coaching games that was very important for us. No point us going delivering this to the youth players of 13 to 17 and not giving the information to the coaches there. So you can see there that there's all of that is available for all coaches within Offaly. Options of the talks to the clubs are available. So if you come away from tonight and say, God, the nutrition part there would be very valuable for our club or the S&C, they're all stuff that can be done, whether it's Conal or whether it's intern or whether it's a member of coaching and game staff that will deliver it. All right, but them options are available. So we also, in fairness to Michael Cleary, he put together a really comprehensive YouTube channel. You probably would have seen bits of, I won't say bits of it, but 7 weeks of videos from a skill aspect being done. In fairness, all the stuff that we were trying to put together is going to go onto that YouTube channel. So there will be video support there from our end, along with the Be Ready to Play as well. So there's a good lot of stuff there that can be done within the club. So what I will say is we kind of target the hour. We're conscious that a lot of people are within work and schools and different things are doing a lot of stuff online. So we didn't want to go any really longer than the hour from the presentation point of view. But I'd like to give an option, maybe if some questions wanted to be asked, if you want to put your hands up or even put in the text box there. So we might just give maybe 2 minutes for any questions to be asked there through the text box, or if you want to put your hands up and want to open your mic, that's also available as well. But we just give you a minute there if you want to type in a question, or if you're happy, leave it at that and we'll finish it off in a few minutes. Again, if any questions, put them into the text box and we can answer them. Thanks, Marvin.
Cheers, Marvin. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, doesn't seem to be any questions coming in. So without saying much more, I want to thank everybody for logging on. All right, it's hugely important that we engage with the youth. You see it there yourselves. They're mad to get back onto the field. Us as coaches are mad to get back on. From my end, it's great to be managing the coaching and game staff of Conal, Michael, Mairead and Adrian. We're only passionate and only too happy to get out and get the work done along with yourselves. All right. So again, thanks very much to everybody. Big thanks to Conal for putting the presentation together. There's a lot of information there, but all them presentations are standalone presentations in themselves. Thanks to Martin Cashin again and to the county board. They've always backed us in a lot of the stuff that we're doing here. So again, if anybody has any question, we'll be on the talk for another 3 minutes. I have one question there if anyone wants to stay on. So how does this program run alongside the tourist system of play that was done at the start of the year? So yeah, again, Ron, this ties in very nicely to it. So from a point of view of when you're looking at the tourists, you're looking at your player pathway from a skill element, all right? And then when you look at your strength and condition and your fitness and stuff, it really is about implementing that and building it all as one unit. Again, the younger age groups wouldn't be as much into as say the youth. Okay, so it's about getting that balance. So again, I'd be encouraging all clubs to have their player pathway in place from the tourists and to be engaging with the talks that we've just gone over there as well this evening. So I'd be saying that they all play a part, Ron. Okay, guys. So thanks very much, everybody. Hopefully we'll be chatting you soon out on the grounds, and we'll send all this information over to you by email. And any questions, you can come back to us by email or even phone calls as well.
Thanks a million, guys. Great stuff. Great work.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers, Mark.
Well done, lads. Well done.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, lads. Bye.